At the JKIA by GSU officers. This is something really that has caused outrage among Kenyans, really. And of course, you've seen my colleagues in the industry. They're just being assaulted outrightly by police officers. We want now to bring in Eric Odwor, who's the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Journalists. Eric, good morning. Thank you for joining us here on News Center. Just to hear your views about the happenings at JKIA when journalists were outrightly, harassed and assaulted on live TV.
Hi, thank you, Betty, for this interview. The events that took place at JKIA are unacceptable, and I think we've been consulting among our lawyers just to find out if there is a legal redress that this journalist can go for. And we have good news that yes, we are working on a petition, and we are not going to wait for DPP to go to court and push for criminal prosecution of individual police officers who actually carried out this act. And we are going now to sue the state so that we can seek compensation and damages for these journalists who are injured and who are attacked and injured. So basically what we are doing is the journalists who are attacked are going to be the complainant and the petitioners in this case, so that we can have a landmark ruling that can be used even in future to deter police officers from attacking journalists.
Then that, even from your last statement that we're talking about, police officers assaulting journalists, how concerned are you, that we're seeing, these days, many rampant cases of, journalists being, at the hands of, if it's political supporters and now the police?
Yeah, basically what we've seen is that we've always raised these complaints. We've even met DPP on these particular matters. We even petitioned Inspector General Police just to ensure that action is taken against the perpetrators, but nothing has happened. So that's why we are saying that this time around, we are not going to rely on DPP to go for criminal prosecution of these police officers, but now we are going to sue the state because these police officers were acting on behalf of the state. We've seen before journalists actually have sued the state and they've been compensated. We've seen journalists who are unlawfully detained go to court and get damages. And basically this is the precedent that we are also going to follow, just to ensure that action is also taken against the state, and the state can also now rein in their officers and probably now advise them against attacking journalists, because it's going to be very expensive. We are going to seek damages for all the journalists who are assaulted in this particular case.
All right, just looking at the pictures, playing on the screens and, what happened earlier on this week, for police officers to act in that manner, for them to outrightly, attack and assault journalists, they cannot do this really, on their own. Do you think that, there could be, bigger forces out there who, willingly give, permission for police officers to act in this manner?
Yeah, yes, Betty, in this particular matter, we are looking at individuals. Number one, we are going to sue the Attorney General on behalf of the state. The number two is going to be the Inspector General of Police.
Right.
Number three is going to be OCPD JKIA. Number four is going to be DCIO JKIA. And the last one is going to be OCS JKIA. And we'll now appoint them now to parade these police officers in court so that action can be taken individually, or if not, then that means that these officers whom I have mentioned they bear the greatest responsibility, and therefore action will be taken against them. If they don't want action to be taken against them, then they should be telling us who issued these orders and who are these police officers individually who carry out the orders.
All right, Eric, also just coming to, some sentiments that were shared by people who are close to the powers that be, and, saying that, police actually did a fantastic job at JKIA. Is there any reason that, any person should treat or assault a journalist in any given situation?
That is not supposed to be encouraged, because the law is also there that anybody who has complained against a journalist actually has got a redress. There is the Media Council Complaints Commission where you can go there and take your dispute, and you'll get your matters will be addressed. If you look at the individual you are talking about, this individual actually is a beneficiary of a court process. He has gone to court, and the court actually awarded him 5 million shillings the other day for unlawful detention when he was detained by police for a number of days when he was being accused of probably hacking into the system of ICC. So what, like I've said before, that actually there is a precedent where people or journalists have taken the state to court and they have been compensated. And therefore, actually, that is what we are also going to rely on.
All right, so that is indeed the ideal situation. But does it also concern you that, with the latest happenings where there's complete disregard for what, the court says, that maybe this will be an exercise in futility?
It concerns me because I think it's just a matter of 1 month before we celebrate International Press Freedom Day. And before that day, we are going to see a number of reports that are going to be released. I'm sure Reporters Without Borders, they are going to release a statement. They are going to release a report on the status of press freedom in Kenya. Center for Protection of Journalists in the U.S. also is going to release a report on journalist safety and security in all over the world. And I'm concerned that this time around, actually, our ranking is going to dip further. If you look at a number of events that have taken place, started by the media shutdown, where a number of television stations were switched off by the government. We've seen now a physical assault on journalists. So that means that in future, and like you've stated before when you are introducing this story, that Kenya actually is going to be ranked alongside some of the countries that have had the worst record in terms of press freedom and respect to journalists. If you look at what is happening in Kenya, the government does not take the media very seriously because they think probably the media and journalists are only there to cover press conference. They did not see the media as a very important sector that actually is worth billions of shillings, has employed so many people and are also contributing to the growth of the economy. So our appeal is that the government should now start treating the media sector as a very serious sector in the economy that actually contributes to the growth of the economy.
All right, let's go back to, the suit that, the journalists are going to, of course, file. Where are we at? Have they already recorded statements? Where are we in that process? At
the moment, we have been in the process of just coming up with the papers. We are now reaching out to the journalists now to come, because they are going to be the petitioners. As the union, we are only probably as a guarantor, just to ensure that the process takes off. So at the moment, we have prepared the papers. So the next step is going to take statements and evidence from these journalists so that the suit can be taken to court. Like I said, we are looking at a landmark ruling here, and therefore we are not going to rush to take it to court. We are going to collect all the necessary information just to ensure that when this suit is finally taken to court, it is a suit that actually is watertight, that cannot be thrown out, so that if we go for the compensation, if we go for the damages, we also want to make it very expensive for the government, especially these institutions that are concerned, so that they can also use this as a deterrent and also advise the officers accordingly. Because these officers who are acting, they must be acting on some orders that were issued by their seniors. And that is why I've said, and I've mentioned a number of police officers there whom we are going to hold liable, because they have they bear greatest responsibility in terms of issuing orders to their juniors to attract journalists.
All right, and just going by your last statement, are you foreseeing, darker days for the media? I'll give you just maybe 3 different, events that we've seen in the recent past. And of course, you'll remember the journalists from Citizen Television who were attacked while they were, preparing to cover a press conference by NASA leader Raila Odinga. They were attacked because it seemed that their station was leaning towards a certain political stand. But of course, that notwithstanding, that should not have happened. And of course, we have the media shutdown where, 4 television stations were shut down, not too long ago. And then now this events that took place earlier on this week at JKIA. Are you looking at better days for the Kenyan media, or should we gear up for some tough times ahead?
Yes, of course, we must brace ourselves for tough times ahead. By the time we are going to elections last year in August, actually, we had already recorded almost 80 cases of journalists who have been attacked. And we've seen, actually, these cases, actually, we are recording more. So that means that the citizens, if you look at what the political party supporters are doing, it means that the citizens are also now learning bad manners from the state. Because if the state that is supposed to protect journalists and any other individual actually is now attacking journalists, then it means that the citizens can only learn from their leaders. They can only learn from what the government is doing. So that is why it's upon the government to ensure that journalists, their security is guaranteed. Well, there is a UN plan of action that actually commits every government who is any government that is a member of UN to ensure that journalists are guaranteed their safety and their security when they are going about their work. So we are not asking for any favor. This is a plan that UN actually has developed, and Kenya is a signatory to, is a member of UN. So it means that the government has got a responsibility to protect journalists. But now if the government, state officers are attacking journalists, it means that political party supporters, citizens out there can only learn bad manners from the government.
All right. Finally, what is the place of Kenya Union of Journalists? What are some of the, inner workings that maybe you do to ensure that, journalists have a conducive environment to operate in, maybe that we do not know about?
Yes, what I will say that other than the case that is being prepared to be taken to court, there are other cases that actually have been taken to court and action actually has been taken. I'll tell you, for example, there is a very important case that actually right now is going on in Lamu, where a former MCA actually attacked a journalist. We've been able to push for that case to be taken to court, and this former MCA actually took plea. So that actually technically locks her out. So that means that there are some other cases that we have taken to court. There is our senior police officer actually also opted for an out-of-court statement. We wanted to take a similar case, taking this police officer to court so that we could sue for assault and damage, so that we can get compensation because he destroyed the equipment of this particular journalist. So there are a number of things that we are doing. There are trainings that are also that we are also carrying out so that journalists can also just get to know what is happening. So, for example, we are training journalists that if you go to an area where there is a security operation, you are also supposed to be wary that anything is likely to happen. It's like cases that happen at the JKIA, they're likely to happen. So journalists actually are supposed to know, and that's how we are doing it through trainings by carrying out workshops. We are planning another workshop we are taking to Nakuru in 2 weeks, so that we can just talk to journalists and try to let them know that if you are covering a hostile environment, what do you need to know? How do you need to cover yourself so that you don't get yourself in the confusion when police and probably the protesters or anybody else who are being dispersed by police, you do not get yourself injured in that in the crossfire.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Eric Odwor, who's the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Journalists, is talking about the recent events at JKIA, in which we saw some serious confrontation and attacks really on journalists by GSU officers. Thank you for your time.